Avalanche seems to target a lot of like I don't know, high like financial. I remember last time I remember you talked a lot about finance and enterprise blockchain as well. You support them. Isn't it? How is it easy to get them on board, like to cooperate and to collaborate? Because like doesn't like most enterprises prefer like their own private chain and like very closed ecosystem, like Libra, for example. Like how would you bring them on board, and how do you encompass them into your ecosystem?
Yeah, great question. So until recently, until we came along, everybody thought that you had to do one of two things. You could be a public open blockchain like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or you could be a private permission blockchain. And there was a chasm in the middle. There was like emptiness in the middle. And we were one of the first people to say, look, this is not necessarily a dichotomy. This is not necessarily a hard choice between two extremes. So in Avalanche, we have this notion of sub-networks. So an enterprise wishing to deploy tokens, deploys digital assets, typically wants to control the full life cycle of the asset. So go to any enterprise and talk to them. They're going to say things like, look, I would love to be able to create something and sell it across the globe. But my legal department is going to say, what is the jurisdiction of this asset? What happens when something goes wrong? What happens when there's a bug? What happens when we have to change the behavior of our code? How do we do this? And the answer for most people, or most existing projects before Avalanche, is you're out of luck. It was encoded this way. There's no take backsies. And, the parity system, for example, they wrote some code and they ended up losing $90 million of their own code due to a coding error. Yeah. So this is the group behind Polkadot. So you can't, like, that's one regime of operation. In Avalanche, what you can do as an enterprise is you can say, look, I'm going to create my own subnetwork. And to participate in this subnetwork, so I'm going to issue a certain digital token on the subnetwork, create a digital asset. It's going to have a particular behavior. Maybe I choose the Ethereum virtual machine and I write a smart contract. Maybe I code it in some other language like Java, compile it down to WASM, or whatever. I write it in C++, compile it down to WASM. Whatever I might like on my subnetwork, for my asset, I describe that. And this is the crucial part, I can get to determine the set of participants that control the life cycle of all assets on that subnetwork. So you can say something like, I'm going to create a subnetwork where to participate, you have to have more resources than the average node. So I'm going to put up large smart contracts with lots of data. So you need to be ready for this. I don't want Raspberry Pis on this. You can say things like, you have to be in the US. You have to be subject to US jurisdiction. You have to abide by the GDPR for the EU. You have to obey Korean law. You have to obey Chinese law. Whatever the jurisdiction might require, you can create a subnetwork for that jurisdiction. So this opens up the ability for an asset issuer to have assurance all the way down to the nodes that comprise a network. So they can control everything that happens. So when your legal says what's going to happen, you can say, well, this is going to happen for some description. You can know what's going to happen. You can ask people to sign a contract to become a validator on your system. Now, once you have a subnetwork, you can have a subnetwork in isolation that exists on its own in its own private universe. And you don't have to use our coin. And somebody else's private network can exist elsewhere as well, and you can conjoin networks at any time. They will just work together as soon as you decide to make the link. And if at any time you decide to connect to the public network, you can do that as well. The assets never leave the jurisdiction of the subnetwork on which they were issued. They're always controlled by the right set of people, and so their behavior is always going to be well understood. So to summarize, to wrap up, until now, blockchains gave you an extra legal framework. What does Bitcoin do? Bitcoin does Bitcoin things. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do US law. It doesn't do EU law. And but what a lot of enterprises want to do is they want to control what happens on their network. And so on Avalanche, you can create sub-networks where the assets are controlled and are compliant within a given jurisdiction. And so that is one of the key differentiators between what we're doing and other systems that came before us.
Oh, wow, awesome. Okay. Very, I also feel like I'm listening to a lecture part 2, but yeah, this is great. I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much through this this talk, so I'm really happy about it. I went through the Avalanche Medium blog, and I noticed that you had a partnership with 퀀트스탬프, which I love. I love the team. Could you elaborate on the partnership and what you expect from the collaboration?
Oh, of course. I can tell you all of the things that came out of that effort, actually. 퀀트스탬프 is one of our key partners in making sure that our platform is safe for other people to use. So they have been doing a giant code audit for us, and they have been identifying areas where our code might have issues, where it's under-documented, where in some cases they found some actual bugs in our code in the testnet stage. And we are grateful to them. They're also one of the better known auditors across the globe. Yep. So when you go to exchanges and you want your coin listed, the exchanges typically ask for a well-known, reputable auditor. Mm-hmm. And კვantStamp has been one of our partners in proving that required sign-off that says that this is a reputable team. The code has been done using state-of-the-art procedures. They have addressed all of the issues we've been able to identify, and so on. And they have been using a combination of manual audits with automated tools to discover the errors that might lie and lurk inside the code. So it's been fantastic working with them. It's a great team. And if there's anybody else out there who has auditing needs for any piece of software, I would wholeheartedly suggest that they talk to კვantStamp.
Yeah, me too. They're a great team for sure. And also related to Asia, actually, Avalanche hosted a hackathon for university students. I saw from Olivia's Telegram message. So I was like, wow, it's a hackathon for university students in specific. And Decipher of Seoul National University won first place. And I know Decipher so well, and I'm so impressed by their performance. For one, why do you decide to host a hackathon just for university students? And what potential and opportunity do you see in it? Do you plan to maybe collaborate with them at some point, or maybe have some future hackathons? What do you think about that?
So, it's very personal for me, actually. It's very simple, too. I have found that I remain young by tapping into the energy of the young people around me, right? And being a professor has always energized me. It's not an easy life, I would say, but it's a rewarding life. Mm-hmm. And so I have a special spot in my heart for any young person who wants to go into a new area and leave his or her mark. And so we want to encourage people who want to play with this new emerging technology. It has the potential to change the world entirely. And I don't mean like it has the potential to change finance. It really has the potential to change the way we interact with each other online. Mm-hmm. It has the potential to give us decentralized applications. It has the potential to provide assurance that our data is not being tracked, that a service is behaving as it should be behaving. We don't have these assurances right now. It's kind of like the medieval days on the internet. We are, service providers provide a service and you are beholden to them. What does Facebook do with your data? Nobody knows. Even Mark Zuckerberg probably doesn't know anymore. So, but you're at their mercy. And so these technologies are really promising, really exciting. And we wanted to allow a large number of students to play with our technology and see what's possible. And we wanted to see what they would come up with. We will most certainly be holding further hackathons. They're really rewarding and fun. And I can't wait. Hackathons are really, really fun. And especially during COVID, when people are cooped up in the house, remote learning is tough. This we thought was an opportunity for people to exercise their creative muscles.
I think it's really great timing for you to host a hackathon, like online hackathon. I mean, yeah, you're right. Like people want to improve themselves, but they don't know how to because they cannot go anywhere. So I think it's a great idea to get your brain rolling, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Decipher was excited to, win first place. And yeah, so it's Seoul National University. So there we go. It's like #1 in Korea.
Well, let's not there are many others. KAIST.
Of course, KAIST is, yes, I cannot forget KAIST. Professor Yongdae Kim.
So, that's right. But no, the difficulty with these hackathons is in the judging, Erica. So there are so many good projects. I actually hate to be a judge at them. I'm going to be judging another hackathon this weekend, and generally I find it so hard because they're often very, very good ideas, and it's hard to make a call. So there were many at our last hackathon as well.
Awesome. So when you came last to Seoul back in 2019, you came also for Middle Asia, which I hosted. What did you feel? You said you liked the Korean community, but what did you feel about the Korean community? Like, how do you feel close to it? Any insights on last year's trip at all?
Absolutely, quite a few. I think that was my first visit to Korea, and I absolutely loved it. And okay, so the reasons why I loved it, there are many. I think demographically, Korea is a younger country, and it's a super tech-savvy country, and it's a well-connected country. So something cool happens, and then before you know it, everybody wants part of that cool thing. Yep. And I grew up in a country like this. I grew up in Turkey, and things are a little slower to catch on. Technological things take a little longer to catch on in Turkey usually, but it has that virality that you see in Korea as well, and it's fantastic to see. So I really like that. Korea felt like a tight-knit community that's huge. Okay, so it's kind of like two opposites in the same place. But Turkey has that feel as well. It's hard to describe, but it's possible to influence and have impact on communities like that. As you know well, right? I'm sure this discussion we're having is going to reach quite a large audience because of the virality, because of the connectedness. In contrast, where I live now in the U.S., I would say the U.S. is nowhere near as well connected. It's a more sort of a disparate, it's split into enclaves, and it's not as well connected. So that connectedness is so invigorating. That was one of the things that appealed to me. And of course, I'm not going to mention the food, but we know how good that is as well. I had some incredible hosts, and of course, you were one of them as well. And I got a chance to sample some of the local food, which I love. I've been back to Korea at least twice more after that trip, and enjoyed it very much. We have a permanent presence in Korea, growing up, if somebody had told me that someday you're going to have people working as part of the same project with you in Korea, I would have said, that's a bit far-fetched.
Right. And, who knew, right?
but here we are, and I'm traveling there routinely, and it's been fantastic. The vibrancy I've seen in the community is really, really exciting to see.
Awesome. I've been to Turkey a while back, but I noticed the same similarity. So I was really surprised. And you know how Turkey and Korea are quite close in terms of like we're brothers, we have that sentiment. So I was really welcomed in the Turkish community. And so you're from Korea, we're your brothers and sisters. And yeah, it was really cool to see that actually.
Great to see. That's great to see.
I mean, you cannot really travel physically this year, but what sort of community efforts would you like to see this year, maybe especially in Asia, Korea, even considering the current limitations of this COVID?
So we would love to see more people build on our platform. So we're issuing, essentially we've created a platform that's really unlike most others. And I encourage everybody who's coding minded to take a look at what we have. Those of you who are familiar with Bitcoin will see that we have a lot of economic similarities to Bitcoin. We're a hard-capped asset, but we also have many other features on top. We have the entirety of Ethereum on top of our platform. Those of you familiar with Ethereum, you're going to realize that we have many fundamental differences from Ethereum. Our own virtual machine is different, much more performant. Our assets are supported as first-class abstractions. So in Ethereum, everything is code. And so the miners are executing code. They don't really know that they're actually maintaining an ERC20. Whereas in Avalanche, they know exactly what they're doing. They can partake in that value creation. And that's a really big difference. And I think the coders listening to this, once they start playing around with these systems, will realize that this is a key difference and a big oversight on the part of systems that came before us. I believe assets should be supported at the network level, which is what Avalanche does.
Awesome.
And so what do I want the community to do? I would love for them to build on top. We have a lot of exciting ecosystem tools coming online but shortly after mainnet. There's a long pipeline of really exciting things to plug into. We're a friendly community, and we really are. We take pride in that. We're very tech-minded. We are very much scientifically oriented people. And so we're different from the religious rivalries that you see in the crypto space. And so we would love to welcome anybody and everybody who wants to participate. Also, if people are non-technical, we have a lot of non-technical needs as well as a community. We would love help with design. We would love help with getting the word out. We would love help with organizational issues. We would love help with reaching out. So those would be fantastic. If they want to get involved, they can. And I would personally be grateful. And we also would love to support them as much as we can. We have resources to support them as well.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks. We're almost at the end of the interview, but I would like to just talk with like the most hottest topic these days. But I just want to know your personal thoughts on it, which is DeFi. And people are worried. I think some are worried that it's going too explosive. You know, the growth is too explosive, and some are, you know, definitely concerned. Like I am pretty concerned. What are your thoughts on like your personal thoughts on how it's going and like how it's going to evolve? What do you think?
Okay, so I am super excited about DeFi. I'm a big proponent, but let me try to explain the DeFi universe from my perspective. As with most things, it's a spectrum. And so on one side of the spectrum, you have absolute innovators, movers, and shakers. And I'm not going to name names, but these are the people who are building new assets. They're writing new smart contracts that carry out a useful function. And so that is a fantastic new thing. So like I will name some names, you know, so Maker, Compound, Uniswap, these are the kinds of projects that really bring something really exciting to the space. They're the building blocks out of which other things are made. On the other side of the spectrum, you have projects that are very fluffy. They provide no value. They have virality and only virality. If you get in early, you benefit. And if you get in late, then you do not. You might lose money. And they have even a pyramid scheme-like or a Ponzi-like feel to them. Yeah. So it's a spectrum, and any given project lies somewhere on it. And one side of the spectrum is absolutely fantastic. And they're going to be with us forever. Maybe not in their current form, but that line of work. Decentralized exchanges are absolutely essential. Automated market makers, absolutely essential. So all of those, that work is absolutely crucial for us. And these are the kinds of things I would love to see flourish. The fluffier stuff, you know, they're here today, gone tomorrow. You know, people will make a lot of noise about them. They're designed to create noise around themselves. But people will be hurt. And what I would hope is that they're twofold. One, I hope that, you know, any kind of negativity that comes from these fluffier projects doesn't taint the other ones. Yeah. There's every techie knows the distinction. And to your listeners, you know, who are maybe not as technical, please do some research on what's happening behind the scenes. Do not just go into things because of the hype that is generated around them. And because, you know, there's a lot of this latter kind of DeFi projects out there. But overall, I'm super positive. That area is going to come up with tools that will replace fundamental functions on Wall Street. They're innovating on things that, and coming up with things that Wall Street doesn't have. And my group also we have DeFi projects in the works that will come out on Avalanche shortly after mainnet. And we plan to unveil things that Wall Street does not have today. And so this is an amazing new step. So Wall Street used to look down on crypto. And this is our chance to turn to them and say, you know what? We're better than you. We're not trying to catch up to you anymore. We are now setting the stage for how secure systems ought to be executed, how they should be constructed. So DeFi will eat the world. The good DeFi will eat the world. The bad DeFi will create a lot of heartache, and it's crucial to know the difference.
It's like it reminds me of the ICO boom. Like it's the same. Like the big major ones, the fundamental ones are the ones who last long, even now until now. But the ones that follow, they're fluffy and like they're just chilly. Yeah, it's been hurtful for a lot of people. I hope it does turn out as explosive in a good way, as you mentioned. So
I hope so.
Good. Yeah. And I don't know if the Korean community knows a lot about it, because Koreans don't really use Twitter, actually. And I use Twitter, but I don't use it as much as Facebook, to be honest. I think a lot of people use Facebook instead of Twitter. And I think more people should use Twitter, because everything that happens in crypto is like updated on Twitter. It seems like it's the important conversations and arguments and whatnot. And so I just want to say, like, for Asian listeners, like, you've been like so expressive on Twitter. I've been like following your tweets for a long time, and I really enjoy them, and I also enjoy the arguments and the all the great opinions that you had. Does that give you like sort of a burden sometimes? Like, I was really curious, like Vitalik, for example, he's always, he also mentioned in his previous interview that he was a little burdened by it, but he doesn't let it get to him. But still, do you feel that burden as well? Like, because your words can also turn into a media article, right? I mean, yeah, so that happens quite a few times. Just personal, curiosity.
So sure, yes, no, that's a great question. So you are right. So these open platforms, they attract all kinds of people, and everybody gets a voice. Everybody gets to interact with you, and often these interactions are incredibly positive. I learn a lot from Twitter, from the interactions I have with people, but sometimes they can turn toxic. You can get brigaded. People come in and they start attacking you, and they can start attacking you in deeply unfair ways. And I've seen people pile on to people because they're a woman, for example, or because this and that, because of something in their background. And it's deeply unfair. So I've seen all of that happen, and certainly it has happened to me as well. When we found security holes in Bitcoin, people called me all sorts of things. I got threats, I got death threats, so all kinds of, yes. So this is very, very common. And it's demanding, it's timely. So you might want to be, you might want to sit down at a nice family dinner, but there's a debate going on Twitter, and you have to respond, or else people, I'm sure this resonates with you, and so you can't just step away from it. But a long time ago, I looked around, and if you look at the word professor, it comes from the word profess. And I didn't know what it meant, actually. I had to look it up. Profess means to take a public stance with your opinions. And many of my colleagues, they're content with writing papers for each other. They are content with incrementally improving something. They are content with looking at a major trend in industry and jumping onto it. So the industry is doing something anyway, and they write some paper that creates the foundation for it, that justifies what's happening. That is all following behavior. And I thought, this is not the way to influence the world. If I really believe in something, I have to get out there and take a stance. And so I decided on two things. I need to do this. I need to take a public stance with my opinions, and I will get attacked for it. But that's okay. This is just part of what I need to do to make the world better. And second thing, of course, is, well, I need to sleep well at night. And so I decided that the only way to do that is to make sure that things I say are backed by science. So I have this additional restriction that I try to say things that I know to be true, and the only way I know that is there's some scientific reasoning behind them. Now, science isn't perfect. It can be mistaken at times, etc. But being based on science means when you're wrong, there is a process for resolving the disagreements. So sometimes I'm super popular on Twitter. Everybody loves what I say. Sometimes people attack me. Sometimes they brigade me. But 22,000 tweets later, there isn't a single one that I thought I should delete because typically they're based on scientific facts, and even if unpopular, somebody has to tell them. And that's been my stance on Twitter. I try not to, there's a bunch of other things. I've thought about this topic quite a bit. A good way to be, a lot of people just want to be popular. Mm-hmm. I don't care about being popular on Twitter. That is not what I'm here to do. In fact, a good way to be popular is to reiterate what everybody else is saying. Well, that's how you reinforce incorrect ideas. And typically I have so little time. I don't have time to build bonds by saying things like crypto will eat the world, right? Do I think that? Of course I do think that, but I don't tweet that out. There is no point. Mm-hmm. So at times I've been accused of, for example, the word no coiner was coined for me. I am the original no coiner. Everybody thought I was a no coiner. I'm like, I'm not a no coiner. They thought I was a no coiner because they thought I was anti-Bitcoin, which I'm not. I love Bitcoin, but I don't spend my time, proselytizing about Bitcoin to other Bitcoiners. It's like, I don't need their approval. I love this system. I think very highly of Satoshi. I don't need to say this out loud. And I have dedicated my career and life to the study of this area. So that's enough of an investment. I'm not going to, do all the, I'm not going to eat, meat and do all these other things that these people do to signal how they are, they're Bitcoiners. So I don't do the signaling online, and I only step in to say things that go counter to the trend. And so that creates a lot of friction around me sometimes, but that's okay. I'm happy with that. In the long term, I'm usually born right. So.
Yeah, I mean, you present original ideas, so I think that means a lot. And counter arguments, I think they're more meaningful in a way because it causes, more well-rounded discussion, I guess, more well-balanced discussion. So I totally agree with what you're saying. Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Lastly, just for the Asian Korean audience, can you say your last words? Do you know how to say goodbye in Korea or hi, hello in Korea?
Oh, don't do that. Do not do that to me. No, I will not. I learned all of my Korean from Olivia Song, who works for Avalanche. Yeah. And Olivia teaches me things. I learn them. And then after I say them, she says, you sound really funny. You sound like a girl. Well, that's because my teacher is Olivia. So I'm not going to say anything in Korean and embarrass myself. So,
okay.
I don't want
next time. Next time.
I'll get a male tutor to teach me how to say it with authority in Korean.
Awesome.
But my couple of words. I am so happy, proud, and energized by what's happening in Korea with regard to legalization of crypto assets. Fantastic way to lead the world. And I'm proud as a bystander, right? So, and so you should all be proud of what you've accomplished, and setting the stage, setting the goalposts for the rest of the world. You're far ahead in technological penetration. You're far ahead with technological infrastructure. You have always been. The internet speeds in Korea have always led the world. The connectivity has always led the world. And here we are once again, Korea setting the example for many other countries. And in comparison, you look around and you see other really advanced countries flipping and flopping on this issue, sometimes taking steps backwards. But you can also see that they're all trying to approximate you. So that's a fantastic position to be in. That's my number one thing. I think, if I were Korean, I'd feel super proud of being at the really at the leading edge. The second thing is, in Korea, trading aspect is very, very heavily popular for cryptocurrencies. And trading is absolutely fine, fantastic area to be in. but also look into the technological differences between the coins. Not all of these things are the same or similar even. They might appear like on the same list. They might appear side by side, but there are fundamental differences between the good projects and the also-rans, the ones that have no permanence. So look for teams that have dedicated their lives and their futures to building something new and exciting. Look for teams that are here to have impact on the world at large outside the crypto community. And I'm hoping that together we'll change the world.
Oh, thank you so much. That was an amazing interview. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in person, maybe next year, but hope you stay.
I want to come to Vietnam, Erica. I really do. I want to come to Vietnam and Thailand.
Actually, I was planning to host Biddle in Vietnam this year, July. Yeah.
We spoke about this. Everybody who's gone to Vietnam has come back telling me two things. One, the food is fantastic. You have to see the place. And two, the crypto community is far beyond, far more sophisticated than you could ever imagine. They're actually very good over there. Yeah. So I want to see it myself. So
I'll prepare.
I'm ready with my vaccine arm. So as soon as I get it, I'll be down there.
Yes. Okay. I'll get it planned, and then I'll invite you. Hopefully next year we'll make it happen.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy, but yeah, thanks so much for taking the time. Okay.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye.